Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today is May 14th, 2015, and this is the final night of the 2015-2016 Board of Aldermen budget deliberations. Will everyone please join me as we salute our flag? Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Anderson?
Present.
Alderman Beer?
Here.
Alderman Casey?
Here.
Alderman Fontana? Here. Alderman Gurman?
Here.
Alderman Genatasio?
Here.
Alderman Golden?
Here.
Alderman Hardiman?
Here.
Alderman Kubek? Alderman Shaw? Alderman Smith? Alderman Stanford? Alderman Veccarelli? Alderman Vitro? Alderman Vitale? 15 present, Mr. Chairman.
15 present. We do have a quorum. Tonight is the final step in the budget process. I'd like to thank the mayor, the department heads, the finance director and his staff, as well as the Board of Finance, Dr. Fieser and her staff, and the Board of Education. I'd also like to thank the members of the Board of Aldermen who have put in many days and hours considering this budget. Each year, we need to do the hard work to understand all the needs and wants of each department, as well as the 54,000 citizens in Milford. The board needs to find balance between our citizens, students, and senior citizens, and adopt a budget that's in the best interest for the entire city. By the end of this process, by the end of this evening, I'm confident that we will adopt a prudent and responsible budget which yields the best results for our city. At this point, we will start our deliberations with the first department budget. Board of Aldermen, page 14 of the budget books. Alderman Veccarelli, please begin with the Board of Aldermen budget.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account number 4111, Board of Aldermen, in the amount of $6,305. Account number 4112, Elections, in the amount of $110,000. Account number 4115, Registrar of Voters, in the amount of $149,880. And account number 4116, MGAT, in the amount of $15,750, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Veccarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4121, Mayor's Office, in the amount of $270,019. And account 4122, General Expenses, in the amount of $435,966, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 15-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Veccarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4123, Community Development, in the amount of $113,673. Account 4129, City Clerk, in the amount of $367,326. And account 4131, the Law Department, in the amount of $607,261. As recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Veccarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. account 4132, Ethics Commission, in the amount of $800. Account 4133, Probate Court, in the amount of $16,423. And account 4141, Board of Finance, in the amount of $1,050, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4142, Permitting and Land Use, in the amount of $1,005,814, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4143, Board of Assessment Appeals, in the amount of $2,650. Account 4144, Zoning Board of Appeals, in the amount of $8,975. Account 4145, Pension Board, in the amount of $3,650. Account 4146, Flood and Erosion Board, in the amount of $903. And account 4147, the Tree Commission, in the amount of $1,621, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4151, Civil Service Commission, in the amount of $200. Account 4153, Parks, Beach, and Recreation Commission, in the amount of $1,100. In account 4155, Economic Development Commission, in the amount of $2, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. On the next accounts, could we break those out individually, please? I make a motion to do that. Does that need a motion?
Motion
I'd
to
like to
divide.
make a motion to...
You want to separate the counts, separate the counts.
Right.
Want to break them all up?
Mr. Chairman, is there
one in particular?
Take them one at a time if you have something to discuss at that time. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4156, Conservation Commission, in the amount of $1,105.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for the following. Account 4159, Veterans Ceremony and Parade Commission, in the amount of $5,600.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for the following. Account 4160, Housing Code Board of Appeals, in the amount of $400.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for the following. Account 4161, Housatonic River Estuary Commission in the amount of $0.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion to approve the budget for the following. Account 4162, Open Space, in the amount of $53,468, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Casey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to amend account number 4162, Open Space, in the amount of $0.
Motion to amend account number 4162. Motion was made and seconded. All in favor? Is there any discussion? I'm sorry. Alderman Casey.
Thank you. I just want to explain kind of the context of why I'm making the motion and my concern. I just want to provide a historic context. When this position was created back in 2012, the mayor came to initially to Planning and Zoning to seek the appointment and creation of this position for through land use funds. I just want to go through just briefly, the history of how it was created. When he came to this board, it was very clear when Chairman Bender asked, would this be a one-time position or would we continue in the future? He basically said that Mayor Blake said the money would not come from taxpayers' funds. He hopes that the position be self-sustaining. Now we're changing course with this. I remember when I asked the mayor if this is a one-time payout, how temporary is this position? Mayor Blake specifically said that hopefully it will be continued through grants and private funding. The goal is to make this a self-sustaining position paid through grants and open space donations, private, state, and federal. And finally, Mr. Delamonica asked, if the individual is hired and we do not conjure up enough grant money, how will this employee be funded in the future? And again, the mayor said, at this time, there is no plan to put this position into the city budget. Now, obviously, this is 3 years later, and the administration has changed course, but I attempted to ask the mayor numerous times why the city had changed course, and I never really got a satisfactory answer. It was somewhat evasive, and I know the city, the current position brings in grants to the city, but that really wasn't the issue why it was created. The issue was we were supposed to have this position be funded through grants, and I didn't really get any explanation as to what steps we had taken to fund this position through private, state, or federal grants. And I just think it's a little bit concerning for me how we're changing course without any explanation. And again, I want to be clear that I know Mr. Johnson is an excellent resource to the city. He provides grant funding to the city, but he might not be in the position forever. This is going forward. This is going to be something we're creating a permanent position that's going to be funded through the city side of the budget. That's not how this position initially was created, and it wasn't even the plan going forward. And frankly, the plan had changed, and I never really got an adequate response as to why the plan had changed. And I never got an adequate response as to what steps we took to try to fund this position. That was what's been represented to us at planning and zoning phase when I was there, and I never got an answer as to what happened with that. So I urge, until this is really explored further, I urge that we vote against this until we understand how we got to this place and how we got to such a shift in policy over just 3 years. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
The mayor.
To provide Alderman Casey with a little bit additional background, I think some of this is covered during our budget deliberations, but when we decided to fund this position at first through the open space money, the hope was that this position, above and beyond identifying our open space and creating an inventory and working with kids and volunteers and engaging and energizing the community and promoting open space and assisting our natural resources, that this would be a self-sustaining position. As Alderman Casey said, that this would be a position where one of the duties and responsibilities, one of the major tasks of this new position would be to identify grants. And as part of the grants that have been identified, even within the last year, I mentioned that we've received approximately $30 million, between $20 and $30 million in grants never before received. Millions of those grants, it's hard to calculate exactly how, but certainly several millions of those dollars would not have been distributed to the city of Milford, would not have been awarded to the city of Milford, but for the efforts of our open space and natural resource agent. Now, during the budget deliberations, when the departments came forward, we talked about some of the legal complications associated with the present position. In fact, we talked about how the position as it's presently formed is a seasonal temporary position. Seasonal temporary by its very nature is just that. It's for seasonal or temporary employees like a lifeguard, like a camp counselor. And from a legal perspective, from a labor management perspective, would be more apt legally to be folded in as part of the budgetary position. Now again, as Alderman Casey said, the intention from day one was to have this be a self-sustaining position. And I would argue, it's fact that this is. The amount of grants that we've received and the amount of those grants that we're allowed to use towards administration alone would sustain the position for the next 20 years. But legally, we really should, as a best practice, fold this into the budget. And that's why you see it in your budget books this evening. That's why this year we took the step to include it or incorporated it into the budget.
Alderman Anderson.
There are a host of reasons to support this position being included in the budget, but I'll give you two reasons. One is the resolutions that come before this body quite often authorize the mayor, the finance director, and another municipal official to accept grants. Quite often the granting agencies require a municipal official who is on payroll to be the primary designated person who can be held responsible and accountable for the implementation of those programs and be responsible for the grant funds. That happens to be Steve Johnson. That's number one. Number two, I think that I was a volunteer with him early on when Steve was just first getting underway, and I know the difficulty that he encountered with some other municipal departments very early on. He has more cachet, or the incumbent within that job has more cachet with Milford departments than would someone who is on a grant program. So I think those are two major reasons why we should include this position within the budget. Thank you.
Alderman Giannattasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you. Good evening, everyone. Just a question before I start. Is there a reason why the city attorney isn't present this evening?
Just that he generally does not appear at budget meetings. He's here to answer the legal questions for our monthly meeting. I only asked our police chief to be here because I thought the majority of questions may be in the police department.
All right. The only reason why I mentioned that is because you referred to it's best practice legally to put this position in the budget. Alderman Anderson's referring to legally to go out and to realize a grant, you have to be, a city official, and I, disagree with that because presently, this position is representing the city and is realizing the grants. So I don't think those two reasons, your reason, Mayor Blake, and Alderman Anderson's reason, hold any water legally. So we all know that the hardship here is the way that this position, the policy shifted, and now you want the taxpayers to fund it. That's really what the hardship is. I don't think the taxpayers anticipated that going in. I know I didn't as an elected official. It was presented to this board as well, and our understanding was, and there's a quote from the Milford Mirror, it says that Mayor Blake said the position will be funded by grants obtained by the person who held the job. And that's clearly what's happening. And the job is being paid for through the Open Space Fund successfully. Our finance director mentioned that it's sustainable for this budget cycle, okay? And I know that he can't comment moving forward, but based on what we have in the account at this moment, we can definitely afford to pay for this position. And over and above that, he has realized grants in the meantime that this board has voted on, with the understanding that we have the option to weigh in and we can decide based on the vehicle of the grant, which is categorized under maintenance, that we could also pay for this position through that revenue stream as well. And these are not taxpayer dollars. I mean, it's very simple. Intuitively, it doesn't make sense to put this position into our city budget, because the way that I look at it is, you know, you planted the seed, now you want to make it a permanent position, and in essence, you're turning your back on the taxpayer. And I say that respectfully. It has nothing to do with the person nor the position, but our philosophy is different from yours. If we can fund this moving forward through the efforts of that person by obtaining grants, and we still have an open space fund that we can tap into, why not do that? That's what the people elect us to do, to be creative. I mean, we were creative in the sense of creating the position, but now, all of a sudden, we're turning our back on it. And we're saying, nah, you know what? Let's just let the taxpayer pay for it. The position already exists. It's already being paid for. So I don't see the common sense in this. It really lacks common sense. And, you know, what are you going to do with the open space fund? Buy more open space? We could have bought more open space on near the golf course. And we didn't do that. We wanted to move forward with that and add on to our golf course. Now we're in a predicament where there's affordable housing that's going to be put up on that parcel. And we have an open space position that's being funded through non-taxpayer dollars. Now you want the taxpayers to pay for it. So unfortunately, I don't know. I feel I must be, for the first time, maybe the smartest guy in the room. But, you know, I can't support this.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I did want to make the point that there are no new net positions funded in this budget, that there were several reductions, and the only new positions were supplanted. There are no new net positions in this budget. Overall, the wages account is actually less.
Just to follow up, Mr. Chairman, Mayor Blake, I understand your logic or your philosophy in that, but I don't agree with it. You know, if you're going to take something out of the budget and then put something back into the budget, this is not a critical position. This is not critical. This is already being funded by non-taxpayer dollars. So your philosophy, I don't agree with. You should let the taxpayer realize the true savings and not spend this salary. I mean, this is money spent foolishly, okay? We raise our kids to be wise and to be very, very aware of what they spend money on. And here we are, we're all grown adults, we're professionals, some of us are lawyers, we're school teachers, we're business owners, and we have a situation in front of us where we know that we don't have to spend taxpayer dollars, but we insist that we need to. I don't agree with that. And just because you do away with two positions and you feel that by adding two, you're not adding to the budget, you are. A negative's a negative, and a positive's a positive.
Alderman Shaw.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to outline a little bit of what the taxpayers are getting. I think one of the important things that are missed is and I think it's true, that when we looked at having the open space natural resource, we thought it was a nice thing to have, that it was a want, and that we could pay for it. What we've discovered in the 3 years that this has been going on, it's actually a need. And this is why it needs to be looked at as a permanent position. A number of the items that the open space, above the $30 million in grants that we've talked about, if you look at Beaverbrook and the boardwalk there, you're looking at $535,000 that was given in grant. If we hadn't gotten that grant, taxpayers would be paying $535,000. So that is a net gain to me. If you look about going forward and you look about the calf pen, which all of us saw as part of a presentation, you will notice that we got $1.7 million. What that means on those acquisitions, and this is an area that's very sensitive and of which people are deeply concerned about, is that some of that money will go back into the general fund as a possibility. That is a net gain to the taxpayers, and it's over and above what any of us envisioned when this idea of having the open space manager. These are real dollars to the taxpayers, and not many departments can show this type of gain. But it is something that this mayor and this board and every city department has been tasked to do, to find savings and to get a return on every dollar that we invest. And I would suggest that this is not dissimilar to what happens at the school under the deputy superintendent with the energy person that's hired that saves millions of dollars in energy costs. We consider that good because it saves the millions of dollars. This is what this position, and if I'm forward about this, it's I don't want to be accused of being frivolous with taxpayers' dollars. I'm not, and nobody on this board is. We can have a difference of opinion, but we all care very deeply about our constituents and the taxes. It is because this is a good deal. And I just want to close with something that I was unaware of until it came up in a discussion. Once we get these grants, we're obligated to see these programs through. Whether we're talking about the calf pen or whether we're talking about Beaverbrook, these are 2- and 3-year projects. We can't have somebody working year to year that has to go beg for his job from the Planning and Zoning Board, then come back to this board and see if we want to fund it when we have projects that are netting the city millions of dollars, and we have to see these projects through. Thank you, Chairman.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. Again, we are getting what we're getting, and my concern is the fact that we will be getting more if we make this a permanent position than what we're getting if we had open space. My concern is that we can't sustain this if we can't put it in the budget. We have money in the open space, as already been proven. So what, it doesn't make sense. It's there. It works. That position will work at the will of the mayor. So therefore, down the road, if there's a change of an administration, it could be easily eliminated. So the point would be the fact that open space is probably more sustainable than putting it in on a line item. My other concern is the fact that this is a department. And what happens when we need meetings? That might be secretarial fees that are accounted for, or maybe there's temp help, as we see in all the budgets, the temporary help. So I can just see this thing just growing. Again, I have to emphasize, it's not about the individual. This is not the individual, it's the position. And I think that we have it in place. It's working well. We have the money to sustain it for a long period of time, and that would be a very common sense thing to do, is to keep it in the open space account. So when we say there are no net positions, I mean, that's a ridiculous statement, because the fact is we're still adding. It's like saying we just reduced a budget by $2 million and then we're going up by 2.01%. It's so abstract. So the issue here is that over the last few years, when we said there would be no more new taxes, so if this budget goes through without any cuts on it, this year, over the last 3 or 4 years, our taxpayers would have encumbered 2.29 mil increase in the budget and at their expense. So where we're saying no new taxes, it's only gone up point something, but over the last few years it's gone up significantly. So the fact is, we need to think about this. We're getting what we're getting, whether it goes either way. So how is it best satisfying the taxpayer? We need to think about this and think logically. Thank you.
Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I have to agree with this side here, Alderman Casey and Alderman Giannatasio and Alderman Vitale. We voted on this in 2006 to be funded through the Open Space Committee, and I just can't support switching that over at this point. I'd like to keep it in the Open Space Committee and continue funding it till we need to make that change. Again, I don't want to dump that onto the taxpayer dollars. So without reiterating what everybody else said, I'm not in support of it.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Giannatasio.
The other thing that I want to bring to light, it's not just, the salary. If this passes, then we have the contractual wages, we have the medical and the insurance and everything else that goes with it. And, that's going to become a detriment to the taxpayer as well. We're all here, first and foremost, to represent the taxpayers, to keep property taxes in line. And, that's what our objective is from our side of the aisle. And, I just feel that, if it's something that's already being funded with non-taxpayer dollars, it just makes great sense to continue it in that fashion. So I hope that maybe some of you on the other side have some last-minute reservations and could possibly, join us and meet the common ground, because the position's already, it's already happening. I mean, the person's there. He's realizing grants. He's doing a great job, and he took the position in good faith, knowing that it was going to be funded in that fashion. That's how it was presented to him as well. And we created the position in good faith. So, I don't think there's any, reason why we should not continue in that fashion. Thank you.
I'd like to say something myself. True, the open space manager gets paid with the open space funds, and this year we're putting it on the budget. But you got to remember one thing. We found a star, as far as I'm concerned, in the open space management position. Not everybody, not everyone could do what this man does. And I feel that when you found someone that is as beneficial as he's been with the city, we need to keep him. And with no other, he has no permanent situation in the city when he's paying with the grant. The grant isn't there; it's going to be there every year. And when he's being put on a budget position, he's got something to look forward to. And like everyone else here that works for a living, you're entitled to your benefits. By not being in the budget, he could leave at any time, and we lost a wonderful thing for the city. That's what I just wanted to make sure everyone understands that. Thank you. Alderman Casey.
Thank you. I just have a couple comments. One comment is that I think the mayor said that this was discussed prior. It really wasn't. I mean, I brought this issue up twice in the part of the budget process and prior to that, and really it wasn't explained to me why we shifted policy. And when I tried to push the issue, I was told it wasn't the appropriate place to bring it up during the budget deliberations. So I really would have liked to understand these issues when I tried to bring them up, when I brought them up. The second point is we have an open space account that has a lot of funds in there. It hasn't been used in years. It's just sitting there. And the money is there. And to address Alderman Vitro's point, I think Mr. Johnson is a star. And if you wanted to reward him by paying more from the fund, you can use the fund. Turning the position to a permanent position on the city side, I think is something that you're going to have the position going forward. As Alderman Vitale said, it's going to just stay there. You're not rewarding somebody for performance. You're just creating a permanent position. you can reward Mr. Johnson in other ways without creating a position and without just now taking this fund that's been sitting there and really no money's been used, and now it's going to sit there, and now he's going to be funded through taxpayers' funds. I don't see the sense of it, and just going back to another point, I'm frankly was frustrated. I respect all the members of this board, and I respect the mayor, but I was a little frustrated why this important issue wasn't more discussed when I brought it up in the past. Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, you know, again, I concur with you. The fact remains that we'd like to hold the individual, not so much the position. We want to hold the position, but the individual is a bigger part of it. And maybe there can be a caveat to this. Maybe we can do a contractual piece that once the grant dries up, maybe we can hit the open spaces. But just to make it a position in the budget at this particular point in time, while promising all of the other things out there too, the fact that that position would be supported by grants, et cetera. So maybe contractually we can offer a 4 or 5 year contract with budget and open space. I think we need to think a little more creatively rather than setting it here. And again, it's going to be at the will of the mayor. That position's only going to be there at the will of the mayor. Thank you. But let's think a little more creatively.
Any more discussion on the amendment? We're going to put it to a vote. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote. Madam Secretary.
Alderman Anderson?
No.
Alderman Beer? Yes. Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Fontana? Yes. Alderman Gurman?
Yes.
Alderman Gentasio?
Yes.
Alderman Golden? No. Alderman Hardeman? No. Alderman Kubek? No. Alderman Shaw? No. Alderman Smith? No. Alderman Stanford? No. Alderman Vecchiarelli? No. Alderman Vitro? No. Alderman Vitale? Yes. 9-6.
Vote was 9-6. The amendment fails on the original motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
Yes.
Alderman Beer? No. Alderman Casey?
No.
Alderman Fontana? No. Alderman Gurman? No. Alderman Gentasio?
No.
Alderman Golden? Yes. Alderman Hardeman? Yes. Alderman Kubek? Yes. Alderman Shaw? Yes. Alderman Smith? Yes. Alderman Stanford? Yes. Alderman Vecchiarelli? Yes. Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale? 9-6. Motion carried.
Vote was 9-6. Motion passes. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4193, Public Library, in the amount of $1,088,736, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4210, Finance Department, in the amount of $1,757,173, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just like to say that I'm not in favor of adding any new positions this year to the budget. So with that said, I'd like to make an amendment to this department. I apologize, Peter, I did not do the contractual part of this. If it gets approved, you can figure it out after, I'm assuming. Department line item 4111-0000, regular wages. I'd like to amend that to read $1,446,510 for a new subtotal of $1,477,385 for a new department total of $1,679,087. And just to clarify, that would be a reduction in the department of $78,086. Somebody want to second it?
Second.
We had a motion and a second on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we discussed this at end a few nights ago as far as what it entailed and how it helped and would help. And it always got back to the technology of the department. And I'm the believer of, we need to move forward and we need to advance technology in all the departments that we can in the city. And yet, I think we're putting the horse before the cart before the horse in trying to get a person before we get the technology in place. And usually vendors offer the idea of getting these people up to speed and training people to meet the expectations of what the software is going to be able to do and all of the possibilities. So I really think that once we get the software, I'm not totally against the position at this point, but I am against the position at the point of entry. I think we need to fix this department with the technology and get it going, and then get people who will really fly with it at this particular point in time. Thank you.
Any more questions on the amendment? Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I would just like to add, with the technology piece as well, I feel that we should implement the technology first and train the people that we have presently that are more familiar with the software, and then taking a evaluation of the department, before we get ahead of ourselves and create a new position. I think that makes more sense. We've bonded for the technology. It's been put on the back burner. It hasn't been addressed, and now we're being told in order to make the transition, we need to hire someone to do that. And I don't necessarily agree with that approach. I think that it's short-sighted. I think we should implement technology first, train the people that are there because they're more familiar with it, and then reevaluate the department as a whole and come back with some more information and take it from that point. But for right now, I'm not in favor of creating this position. Thank you.
Any more questions on the amendment?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If with your permission, may I make a few comments?
Yes, you can.
In reflecting upon our debate at the prior meeting, I think we can all agree that, through you, Mr. Chairman, to the rest of the board, that we almost got lost into the example of the technology, when clearly, when we had many years of testimony since at least 2008, from my predecessor and including myself when I became finance director, both finance directors went at great lengths to give numerous examples of why this position is justified, needed, and would be long-term. Now, I decided to bring up the technology example because it is one major example of why we need this person. But again, to be frank, we are way behind the 8 ball here, because it takes this board, that's the first step to approve the position. Then it takes several months to find the appropriate candidate. Then you have to train the person, and that is the idea, to get the permission for the funding of the position, to take several months to properly go out and recruit excellent candidates and choose the right person, and then many months after that to train them on our system, and then we might have the ability to start considering the conversion or upgrade of the city's financial and HR system, which we can all agree is a massive project. And that's why we've taken this first step. I would disagree that it's putting the cart before the horse. This is the logical first step. How can we move forward with a major conversion without the person in place, trained, funded, and ready to go? And that is just one project. When that's done, there will be many more, because we have a lot on the back burner. And another comment that I've made in prior testimony is that the fines related to noncompliance For example, with the Affordable Care Act, are in the thousands to even, could reach upwards of $1 million. So I'm not trying to cause panic or anything like that. I'm trying to be prudent and properly be able to feasibly plan for not only the financial system conversion, but to address the many other areas that were mentioned in prior years' testimony over the years about why this position is justified. And I just wanted to clarify that for the board. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Reducci. Any more questions on the amendment? Seeing none, we're going to put this to a vote. All in favor? Opposed? No. Roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson.
No.
Alderman Beer. Yes. Alderman Casey.
Yes.
Alderman Fontana. Alderman Gurman.
Yes.
Alderman Gennatasio.
Yes.
Alderman Golden. Alderman Hardeman. Alderman Kubek. Alderman Shaw. Alderman Smith. Alderman Stanford. Alderman Veccarelli. Alderman Vitro.
No.
Alderman Vitale. Fails 9-6.
The amendment fails 9-6. On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman Beer. Alderman Casey.
No.
Alderman Fontana. No. Alderman Gurman.
No.
Alderman Gennatasio.
No.
Alderman Golden. Alderman Hardeman. Alderman Kubek. Alderman Shaw. Alderman Smith. Alderman Stanford. Alderman Veccarelli. Alderman Vitro.
Yes.
Alderman Vitale. Motion carries 9 yes.
Motion passes 9-6. Thank you. Alderman Veccarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4215, Management Information Systems, MIS, in the amount of $741,032, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Veccarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4219, Human Resources, as recommended by the Board of Finance, with the following technical changes. Department 0010-4219, Human Resources, Benefits Specialists will remain in MCHEA, Union, and as a result, $300 added to contractual wage adjustment for a revised position, total of $177,392, which increases regular wage account by $300. Account 4111-0000, regular wages increased to $177,392, with a new department subtotal of $193,077 and a new department total of $203,830.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Could we have 5 minutes?
Yes. A 5-minute recess. Alderman Veccarelli.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can we break these up? Can we break these up separately?
Absolutely. Anyone in particular you want to break up instead of run? The very first one? Okay. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4310, Police Department, as recommended by the Board of Finance with the following technical changes. Department 0010-4310, Police Department. 8 existing fire dispatch positions are being moved from the fire department budget to the police department budget. Position total changed from 131 to 139, and revised position total account is $9,211,467. Account 4111-0000, regular wages increased by $369,790 for a new amount of $9,211,467. Account 4111-9942. Excuse me. One-fifth fiscal week increased by $1,849 to a new amount of $45,881. Revised subtotal is $10,892,232, and new department total is $12,180,809.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Alderman Fontana.
through you to the mayor, we were given this just only a few minutes before the meeting, so I didn't have a lot of time to review it. Could you just explain the technical changes?
Sure. This just codifies, as part of the budget, the discussion that we had a few weeks ago when Police Chief Mello mentioned it to us in his discussions. As you remember, about a year and a half ago, the city of Milford consolidated our 2 dispatch centers, our fire dispatch center and our police dispatch center, into one PSAP center located within the police department. And we did that for a whole host of reasons. One, because it meant we only had to maintain one communications infrastructure, and these communications infrastructures are millions and millions of dollars. It also meant that we received an additional approximately $120,000 a year through OSET, which is something that we would only receive if we consolidated. The state incentivizes the consolidations of dispatch centers, so we receive additional money. It also makes for better public safety. Instead of having to transfer calls, the fire dispatchers and the police dispatchers are in the same room. As part of this change, we are consolidating the dispatcher budgets under one because they operate out of the police department. The police chief has additional information, additional background, more knowledge of the details. If you have additional questions, I know that he's happy to answer those. He did come tonight to respond to any detailed questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Does that satisfy your questions, Alderman Fontana? Thank you. Any more questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for clarifying that. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4320 Fire Department as recommended by the Board of Finance with the following technical changes. Department 0010-4320 Fire Department. 8 existing fire dispatch positions are being moved from the fire department budget to the police department budget. Position total changed from 125 to 117, and revised position total amount account is $8,083,527. Account 4111-0000 regular wages decreased by $369,790 for a new amount of $8,083,527. Account 4111-9942. 1/5 fiscal week decreased by $1,849 to a new amount of $40,418. Revised subtotal is $10,007,845, and new department total is $11,213,440.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4331, civil preparedness, in the amount of $94,901, as recommended by the Board of Finance for fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4340, animal control, in the amount of $323,127, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4360, lighting, hydrants, water, in the excuse me, in the amount of $1,856,000, as recommended by the Board of Finance for fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for the following. Account 4420, Public Works Office, in the amount of $267,256. Account 4421, Highway Parks, in the amount of $2,580,386. Account 4423, Building Maintenance, in the amount of $3,012,464. Account 4424, Engineering, in the amount of $372,947. Account 4429, General Garage, in the amount of $1,322,568. In account 4431, Solid Waste, in the amount of $4,630,554, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4503, Public Debt Service, in the amount of $9,896,481, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4610, Health Department, in the amount of $881,298, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4620, Recreation Department, in the amount of $809,429, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4710, Employee Benefits, in the amount of $21,927,006, as recommended by the Board of Finance for fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4720, Insurance and Bonds, in the amount of $1,728,250. Account 4740, Claims and Refunds, in the amount of $640,000, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion hasn't been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4790, Benefits and Salary Reserve, in the amount of $425,281, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4799, Unallocated Contingency, in the amount of $25,000, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4801, Council on Aging, in the amount of $1,357,849. And account 4803, the Fine Arts Council, in the amount of $67,500. $500, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4805 CMed in the amount of $95,151, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4807, Regional Mental Health Board, in the amount of $2,996. Account 4811, the Borough of Woodmont, in the amount of $220,000. Account 4812, Transit Authority, in the amount of $345,242. Account 4813, Bridges Community Support, in the amount of $350,000. Account 4815, Veterans Graves, in the amount of $2,850. And account 4816, Milford Flotilla 73, in the amount of $10,000, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4817, Human Services Department, in the amount of $490,000, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following account 4818, Historic District, in the amount of $650. Account 4819, Milford Progress, Inc., in the amount of $10,000. Account 4820, Historic District 2, in the amount of $650. Account 4821, Health Services Visiting Nurse Association, in the amount of $20,000. Account 4822, Cemetery Association, in the amount of $9,250, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Fontana, do you have your hand up? Sorry. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4825, Beth El Shelter, in the amount of $80,000. Account 4826, Boys and Girls Club, in the amount of $70,000, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budgets for the following. Account 4992, Private School Textbooks, in the amount of $20,000. Account 4993, Education Audit Fees, in the amount of $21,900. account 4994, school debt in the amount of $4,647,004. Account 4995, employee benefits, non-teaching, in the amount of $1,198,477, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli. Back from our 5-minute recess, Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4996, education operations, in the amount of $91,010,638, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Alderman Fontana.
Yes, I'd like to amend that motion and readjust the total by 0.5% to $90,555,584.80.
We have an amendment and a second.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Alderman
could the
Anderson.
maker of the motion, Alderwoman Fontana, please repeat that figure?
Sir.
$90,555,584.80.
Thank you.
Which comes to, what's the percentage on that, Alderman Fontana?
0.5.
Thank you. The amendment motion was made and seconded. Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just reiterating what Alderman Fontana explained. So it's a 5% reduction and a 2% increase, so that it's only a 1.5% increase as opposed to a 2% increase. I just want to make sure that's clear. And I think that's prudent considering the decline in enrollment. They did a nice job in reducing some positions and reducing the overall budget, but then they came back and added quite a few things. And I think with that much of a decline, especially over the next several years or 10 years, I think the budget should be reflecting that as we go along. And we can't be increasing the budget every year with a reduction in enrollment. So I strongly agree with Alderman Fontana's remark to reduce the budget by that amount. Thank you.
Alderman Vitale.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I'd like to say that I'm really disappointed in the fact that we spent $140,000 in consultant fees, and we're back to K-5 organization. The idea here is that there was not one creative organizational piece on the table. The other piece is that I look at the positions, and I know the cutting and all that can't be line item, but the fact is that when I heard of teacher leaders, you have to understand that we have teacher leaders in the Milford Education Association that don't do any teaching, and on top of that, they get a stipend. It's a stipend position to be out of the classroom to fill in for administrators that are evaluating in the classroom which drives the idea that it's an unfunded mandate. CCM the other day put out their unfunded mandate list, unfunded mandated lists, and I just want to review 3 of them with you guys with the help of knowing what's going down in the future. House Bill 6282. It's called Mandated Physical Activity and Assessment. And this would require additional physical activity in schools as well as obesity and diabetes assessments. Additional personnel, unfunded mandates. School nurses, House Bill 6796, would require towns to hire additional school nurses by mandating a nurse-to-student ratio. OFA has indicated that several schools would have to add at least 1 new school nurse, averaging a salary of $55,000, not including fringe benefits. Unfunded mandate. House Bill 7023, additional education mandate, would, among other things, increase the number of required hearing screenings for public school students. The new mandate could impose costs for those schools without 2 full-time nurses. That's what, whether it gets voted in or not, that's what's coming down the pipe, and it has to be addressed at the legislatures. We're doing this on a very non-transparent level, I think, and it's through no fault of anybody. People need help. It needs the help. But the fact is, I think we've created this unfunded mandate by the evaluation vehicle that is up and beyond what the state minimum is. And state minimum wasn't bad, that we have to increase our evaluations to increase student performances, which doesn't always match one with the other. So I'm disappointed. The city side of the budget is $202 million. The school-related or education-related budget is $118,000 plus. 202 as opposed to 118 million plus. So with this understanding that we need to know that newly created positions are not always the way to go, because the absorption of other things and the idea of changing some things could be the solving of the particular problem. The organizational piece, the redistricting, and spending $140,000 just rubs me the wrong way, and we did not come up with anything that had a sense of creativity to it. So with that, I'm not in favor of the budget, and I am in favor of the amendment. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Stanford.
Subsequent to the Board of Education presentation and Alderman Vitale's addressing the subject of teacher leaders, I requested a job description of the teacher leader position from administration. I believe I have the qualifications to analyze education job descriptions based on my 16 years as an officer of the Teachers Union, 13 as president, and also my 3 years of working as a bargaining agent for the Connecticut Education Association. However, I felt the need to go a little further with this. I removed the teacher leader title and showed the job description to several professionals around the state who have many years of experience in bargaining and writing job descriptions. Every one of them agreed that this is the job description of an assistant principal, not a teacher leader. And ladies and gentlemen, if it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck, it's a duck. My initial reaction was to vote against the Board of Education budget. However, that would go against everything, I mean the original budget, not this amendment. However, that would go against everything I've stood for in the past 40 years as an advocate for teachers and public education. Further, I might be hurting kids, and that is not my intent. I realize that the purpose of having teachers leaders, the purpose of the board to do that was to save money, because obviously assistant principals cost more. But that doesn't make it right. It's wrong. So yes, I will vote for the Board of Ed original budget. But since this is a bottom line budget, and the Board of Ed has the ability to move money around, I suggest that they use the money allocated for teacher leaders to make to hire 2 assistant principals, or not at all. Obviously, the Board of Education doesn't have to agree with my suggestion or any suggestion that this board makes. But they will only do it because they know it's the right thing to do. And as I've said before, I will vote yes on the original Board of Ed budget.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Casey.
Through you, I want to thank Alderman Stanford for those comments. I think I agree with part of it. I think that the premise, too, is, from my perspective, while I'll be supporting the amendment, is that, last year and this year, time and time, I hear constituents say that, the Board of Education, Milford Board of Education, has a top-heavy in administration and not effective teaching model. They have a lot of administrators, and this just adds to the problem that I think people see. And I think it's sort of, tone deaf to what their concerns are and parents' concerns. So that's why I'll be in support of this amendment.
Alderman Vitro.
Alderman Stanford.
Alderman Casey, through you, Alderman Vitro, to Alderman Casey. I don't believe that the Board of Education is top-heavy with administrators. Now, administrators have to make 3 times the amount of evaluations of each teacher than they did before. So they need people. But the way to go for that is not to have teacher leaders. You need to have more assistant principals. Because if you have 30 teachers in a school and you have to make 3 observations for each of those teachers, you are spending 90 days just observing teachers in the classroom and don't have time to do anything else.
Alderman Vitale.
I don't think I need to defend myself. Greta knows the idea here. Not only do you have to do 3 observations, but with each of those observations comes pre-conference, post-conference, so it ties a lot of people up. We were also told that those positions would not evaluate. They have an 092, which is an administrative certificate. Why not then just have a teacher salary? Many teachers would relish the idea of getting out in the classroom and working outside the classroom. But to put a stipend on top of it is really outlandish. The idea here is that those people could be supervising and may supervise in the near future all of those non-certified individuals, such as paras, custodians, and the likes of those who are not certified. So I think we need to think. We obviously cannot tell the Board of Education where to cut, how to cut. I think that was if the Board of Education did their due diligence, they would even not have come and understood those positions, would not have even come to us with that budget, with that in mind in the budget. I think that there was a lot of things that could have been done differently as far as creativity, and I'm still on that organizational piece of K-5. I think there could have been other choices that parents could have locked into. Student performances in other models could have been evaluated, the data could have been collected, there could have been a comparison model seeing what was best for kids and if student performances would have increased. So again, that's not where that teacher leader position should be, and it doesn't belong in the teachers union, and I think that they should be thinking of eliminating those additional teacher leaders. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Gurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I just want to state again the total educational budget. Alderman Vitale mentioned it, so it's $118 million out of $202 for the total budget for the city and Board of Education. That's nearly 60% of our city taxpayer dollars going towards the Board of Education. And I know that's very important, but there's a lot of, obviously a vast majority of people that do not have kids in the school system, and therefore they're paying for this. And again, just to reiterate the decline in enrollment, I think the budget should kind of face that or relate to that as we go along. So again, it's $118 million. We're voting on a $90 million roughly, but with all the benefits, it's $118 million. It's a big budget. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Alderman Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As long as we're discussing figures, I just wanted to put on the record the amount of the cut that we're talking about. The 5% reduction and the 2% increase represents $455,000, which is a substantial hit for the education department, $455,000. I believe that the Milford Public Schools and the Board of Education has come a long way just in the last year. If you consider everything that they have on their plate, from redistricting that was deftly handled by Chairwoman Glennon and the Board of Ed, the reconfiguration, which is something that was requested by numerous parents throughout the city, and Alderman Giantasio and myself served as the two aldermanic liaisons on long-range planning. They've really, I'm looking at the number of AP courses that are now offered and plans for AP courses in the fall. With this budget, they're looking to add world languages at the middle school, and do not forget that there will be opportunities for high school students to be able to obtain college credits, and for that matter, middle school students will be able to qualify for a high school course before actually matriculating on. So for a host of reasons, I think the Board of Ed deserves our support. I am fully supportive of the total allocation as it's been recommended by the Mayor, the Board of Finance, and I really believe that the $455,000 cut would do significant damage. And I urge my colleagues to defeat the amendment and to support the full allocation. Thank you.
Any more discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, we'll put the amendment to a vote. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Roll call vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
No.
Alderman Beer?
Yes.
Alderman Casey?
Yes.
Alderman Fontana? Alderman Gurman?
Yes.
Alderman Giannatasio?
Yes.
Alderman Golden? Alderman Hardeman? Alderman Kubek? Alderman Shaw? Alderman Smith? Alderman Stanford? Alderman Vecchiarelli? Alderman Vitro? Alderman Vitale? Motion fails 9-6.
Amendment fails 9-6. On the original motion, all in favor?
Aye.
No. All opposed? Any opposed? On the main motion, this is now. The amendment failed, 9-6. One more time, on the original motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call vote, Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson.
Yes.
Alderman Beer. No. Alderman Casey.
No.
Alderman Fontana. No. Alderman Gurman.
No.
Alderman Gennatasio.
No.
Alderman Golden. Alderman Hardeman. Alderman Kubek. Alderman Shaw. Alderman Smith. Alderman Stanford. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Yes.
Alderman Vitro.
Yes.
Alderman Vitale. Motion carries.
Motion fails, 9-6. I'm sorry. Motion passes, 9-6. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4997, education, health insurance, contribution in the amount of $19,605,412 as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4998, education, health services, school nurses, in the amount of $387,194, as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
I make a motion to approve account 4154, the Sewer Commission, in the amount of $7,005, $134. Did I say that right? $1,705,134. Sorry about that. As recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4426 wastewater in the amount of $6,250,415 as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Alderman Gennatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the other members of the board. During the budget deliberations, I asked our Public Works Director about the nitrogen credits. As you know, most of the members here that have been on this board, the city has realized nitrogen credits in the past on the revenue side of this budget, and it's unfortunate that we, for some reason, I don't know if it's a personnel reason or if it has to do with the technology in that department, but we've seemed to lost our way as far as realizing these credits. And like I mentioned in the deliberations, you know, this was money that was bonded to improve the facility, to make the investment in the equipment, and we're still not, for some reason, seeing the credits. So I hope that the mayor is doing the right thing and making sure that this correction will be made for the hope of the next budget cycle that we can realize some of these nitrogen credits, because I think it's a disappointment to me as an alderman, knowing that, you know, we've lost that revenue stream, and, you know, it just upsets me that, you know, you're adding positions to the budget, and here is a situation where we, as a city, we're realizing credits, and with our current administration, we no longer have that revenue stream. So I am concerned about it, and I'm hopeful that that we can realize these credits in the near future, and I think that it's important for us to do that. It's our responsibility to process the waste and to ensure that we get these credits and put them back on the revenue side of this budget. Thank you.
Any more questions, concerns on the amendment, on the motion, I'm sorry? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the budget for account 4790 Benefits and Salary Reserve in the amount of $52,510 as recommended by the Board of Finance for fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the revenue and expenditures for account 0012-0000 Sewer Fund in the amount of $8,008,059 as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve expenditures and revenue for account 00364157 Harbor Management Commission in the amount of $271,818 as recommended by the Board of Finance for the fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve expenditures and revenue for account 0018-4121, the golf course, in the amount of $82,333 as recommended by the Board of Finance for fiscal year 2015-16.
Motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve account 0010-0000, the General Fund Reserve, General Fund Revenue, as recommended by the Board of Finance for fiscal year 2015-2016. The Finance Director will provide the final total once the current taxes, account 3111-0000, is calculated.
Motion is made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, could we take a brief recess so that our finance director can make those calculations to determine the revenue and the taxes?
Absolutely. We're on, take a recess. We're back off recess. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve an ordinance establishing a budget for the City of Milford for fiscal year 2015-2016, setting the mill rate and establishing a due date in accordance with the provisions of the Connecticut General Statutes and the Charter of the City of Milford. Whereas the Board of Finance of the City of Milford has made estimates of the income and the amount of money necessary to appropriate for the expenses of the City of Milford for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016, and has classified such expenses under appropriate headings, departments, and appropriations as more fully appears in the proposed fiscal budget submitted by the Board of Aldermen in accordance with Article 6, Section 2 of the Charter of the City of Milford. And whereas the Board of Aldermen, having met and conducted a public hearing, has considered said proposed fiscal budget and has made changes herein pursuant to Article 6, Section 3 of the Charter of the City of Milford. And whereas the Board of Aldermen in its deliberations and voting on said budget has estimated revenues for the 2015-16 fiscal year in the amount of $202,180,672 and authorized appropriations for the 2015-16 fiscal year in the amount of $202,180,672. Now therefore be it and it therefore be it and it is hereby ordained and enacted by the Board of Aldermen of the City of Milford as follows. The proposed fiscal budget for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016, as amended by the action of the Board of Aldermen pursuant to law, is hereby adopted and considered to be filed with the City Clerk. Taxes for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016 at a rate of 27.88 mils upon the rateable estate within the limits of the City of Milford are hereby laid and levied to meet the expenses of said budget. Said mill rate is set on the predications that it is estimated that $433,050 of said levy will be granted for elderly exemptions, State of Connecticut, $821,622 will be granted for the local tax relief programs for the elderly. $546,091 will be granted for local tax relief programs for the veterans. And 97.85% of the resulting levy will be collected during the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2015 and ending June 30th, 2016. Said taxes shall be paid on the grand list of October 1st, 2014 and shall be due and payable on July 1st, 2015, provided that if the taxes of any person shall exceed $200, the first installment thereof, but not less than 1/2 of the amount of such taxes, shall be due and payable on the first day of July 2015, and the remainder due and payable on the first day of January 2016. But any taxpayer may pay the total amount of the taxes for which he or she is liable at the time when the first installment shall become payable. Such tax rate shall apply to all districts of the city of Milford. Taxes to be raised, $173 million, $39,337. Total appropriation, $202,180,672, and total revenue is $202,180,672. This ordinance shall take effect in accordance with the Charter of the City of Milford.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any discussion? Alderman Giannatasio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you to the members of the board. Big news flash, ladies and gentlemen. The taxes are being raised, $173,039,337. You know, I've been on this board, this is my 8th year, and I'm not talking out of school when I say this. I was in the majority and in the minority, so I've been on both sides of the aisle. And when I was in the majority, when we had a Republican mayor, we still put forward tax cuts. We still caucused. We still scrutinized the budget. So when I sit here tonight and I see no effort on the other side whatsoever, not questioning anything, I mean, just, you know, just passing everything the way it's presented, the way it's proposed, you know, supporting our mayor's policies, which I don't agree with. I don't agree with creating 2 new positions, especially one that's already being paid for with non-taxpayer dollars. And we have people on this board that seem to think the taxpayers should pay for it. So, I don't know. I mean, you people spend all this time listening to all these people and you don't come up with any creative ideas. I mean, you think that everything's fine. And apparently, that's not the case. I mean, we're raising taxes. Mayor Blake ran on the fact that he didn't want to raise taxes. He scrutinized budgets. He scrutinized cell phone bills. He wanted to put things on eBay to auction them off. And here we are. We have a position that's in the city budget with its own department, didn't even put it into another department, created a whole new department. It was already being funded, and he wants the taxpayers to pay for it. So something's changed dramatically. And what's changed is the people that are in the majority, that are making decisions for the taxpayers of the citizens of Milford. And they're not putting those taxpayers first. And if that's the mayor's policies, I don't care if you're a Democrat. You should question them. You should make an effort. You should try to lower people's taxes and not be a rubber stamp. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mayor.
I would like to commend the board's efforts, the work, the many nights, the long evenings that you've put into this budget, as well as the Board of Finance, as well as the Board of Education, as well as all of the department heads and city employees who, again, labored over this budget. I have to take exception to Alderman Giannatasio's remarks. I spend each and every day laboring over cell phone bills, laboring over the minutia that adds up to real dollars. The last 4 budgets that we have passed in the city of Milford have been fiscally responsible, prudent budgets. Each and every day in the city of Milford, we find ways to streamline the way that our city does business and make things more efficient. And that's reflected in the budget that is before you, the budget that you've spent the last many weeks deliberating on and discussing. I was impressed with this budget. I think that it's a good, solid, prudent budget, less than a 2% increase. The last 4 years, the increases that we've had have been the lowest in a generation. We have had increases at a rate lower than any of our peer communities, lower historically than any of the budgets that have been passed. The only one year Mr. Chairman, was the 2009 budget season. But other than that, 2008-2009 budget season, other than that, the last four budgets that this board has overseen have been the four lowest in a generation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Vecchiarelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, as I see our mayor work the city, it really amazes me at how seriously he takes his job and how hard he works at it. Every day he's in there, he's trying to figure out how to help the taxpayers, to get things done better, to save us money. I can't say that I've seen a mayor work any harder than him, and I would like to really commend him for all of the time and energy and work that he's put together in helping to form this budget and to be responsible, and including the finance department, all the work that they've done. I think they've done a remarkable job. And as we sit here tonight and we conclude the city budget, well, we know it's an election year, and you know there's certain things I guess that we have to expect. But all in all, we sat here tonight and for the most part unanimously accepted just about the entire budget, except for a few items in it. And while the debate is healthy and it certainly is welcome, I think that this board really did a good job with this budget, all in all. I know everybody wasn't happy, but for the most part, I think the citizens of Milford have been treated very well. We tried to give them the very best that we could in keeping the taxes as low as we could and providing all of those essential services. Again, the city side of the budget, we didn't hire any new people, and we tried to keep everything down to the bare minimum. And I commend the mayor for being responsible. My colleagues on the other side, while I know they have some reservations on some of the things in the budget, for the most part, we were unanimous in agreeing on most of the budget. And I would also like to thank them for all of their time and their effort, along with my aisle here, for all the time and energy and effort that we put into this to make this budget good for the next following year. And so I thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Vecchiarelli. I just want to say, I want to thank the mayor and the Board of Finance for recommending to us aldermen a very lean and prudent budget. And I want to commend the aldermen tonight on both sides for being respectful and getting a very hard job completed in a very reasonable time. I will thank you all again. As chairman, you handle yourself very professionally, and I think the residents of Milford should be proud of you, both the mayor and the Board of Aldermen. Thank you. Anybody else have any comment? Alderman Beer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to make a few comments on this overall budget that we went through tonight. Generally, I'm a little disappointed in the Democratic majority. I feel as though you failed Milford tonight. You rubber stamped this whole budget, and it just passed right through. I couldn't even believe that one of you actually came out and said you didn't agree with a particular line item, but you just thought we'd vote for it anyway. I was a little shocked at that as well. I mean, we could have, held the Board of Ed to a tighter budget, and we failed to do that tonight as well. overall, I think we could have done better. And to also bring up the nitrogen credits, I don't know. I hope the mayor's going to look into that as well. I'm really disappointed in that as well, that we're not getting those credits. Hopefully that gets corrected next year. And hopefully next year we can have a budget that's not a tax increase. I will not be supporting this budget tonight.
Alderman Shaw.
I just make the comment that I thought it was a very prudent, very good budget. And there are 3 items in this entire budget. Maybe I missed something, but I thought there was just 3 items. One was a proposed $450,000 cut to the budget, which you put forward, and 2 positions. And I can understand that there's a difference of opinion, but to accuse us of rubber stamping or not caring about the taxpayer, while as Alderman Vecchiarelli says, you've approved most of this budget out of hand. There are 3 items that we disagreed with, but I hardly think that constitutes rubber stamping. But I do thank the mayor, I thank the finance board, and I thank everybody on this board. I think it is a very prudent, very fair budget.
Thank you, Alderman Shaw. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Roll call of vote. Madam Secretary, please.
Alderman Anderson?
Yes.
Alderman Beer? No. Alderman Casey?
No.
Alderman Fontana? No. Alderman Gurman?
No.
Alderman Gennatasio?
No.
Alderman Golden? Alderman Hardeman? Yes. Alderman Kubek? Yes. Alderman Shaw? Yes. Alderman Smith?
Yes.
Alderman Stanford? Alderman Vecchiarelli? Yes. Alderman Vitro?
Yes.
Alderman Vitale?
Absolutely not.
Motion carries 9 yes, 6 no.
Motion carries 9-6. Motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your indulgence.
Mr. Vitro, thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Dora.